I'm Jen from Yarnia, Montclair's local yarn store on Watchung Avenue in Montclair, New Jersey. Today, we have an interview with Meredith Hobbes from Woolfolk. Woolfolk yarns are some of our favorites at the store. They combined the highest quality wool with ethical, sustainable practices using ultimate merino, which is a type of merino that's a result of innovative efforts from farmers to produce the very best wool fiber while also being the land stewards of the Patagonian grasslands. So most wool products have a high percentage of over 30 microns. That means the diameter of the measure of a strand of fiber. But Ultimate Merino has a micron count of 17.5. It's that much finer. And so it combines the hand of cashmere with the wear of merino. And one of the things that we love about Woolfolk yarns is that you can truly feel how soft this merino is. It really does compare to cashmere. So we carry a number of lines at Yarnia, including Woolfolk Snow, which is their 2-ply fingering weight, which it pairs 2 tones of high or low contrast yarns together in one skein, and it is just buttery soft. This would make an amazing shawl, an amazing sweater, and the marl effect is really just stunning. We also carry Tov DK, which has 12 strands of tightly plied fibers for some incredible stitch definition. And you can see there's the cream. We have many different colors. We actually carry the full line of colors from Woolfolk. Every color that they have in their color palette is just stunning, and their color palettes work across the lines. So your color 1 in Snow is going to be compared to your color 1 in Tauve, which will compare to your color 1 in Flet. Flet is another one of the yarns. It is also a DK weight, and this is a light and bouncy boucle yarn that is just lovely. It's 100% merino. It's a delight to knit with. Unlike some boucles of the past, you might remember being a little crunchy or a little odd, but Flet is something that is just snuggly and cozy and light and airy and lovely. We also carry Far, their worsted weight, which utilizes a chainette construction that gives a ton of air and body and structure to the fine fibers. It wears beautifully and it knits up gorgeously. And then finally, we also carry Luft, which is bulky, light chainette tube of Pima cotton filled with ultimate merino fleece. It's airy with a slight halo. You can wear this bulky yarn across almost every season. It's breathable and lovely. It is a pleasure to work with and one of the most beautiful yarns I think we carry. So now, without further ado, we'd like to present our interview with Meredith Hobbes from Woolfolk.
Yes. Welcome to the Chronicles of Yarnia. This is Amanda.
I'm Kathleen.
And today we are super excited to have with us Meredith of Woolfolk. Hey, Meredith.
Hi! Remotely, obviously. Thanks to the magic of Zoom, we're able to be chatting today.
Yay!
Yeah.
Zoom magic.
Yes. Hello! Welcome from Portland.
From Portland, Oregon. So like all the way across the country. We're in New Jersey.
Yeah.
Yay. So we're going to talk today about Woolfolk, how you started, a little bit about the fiber, a little bit about like tell us more about it, because
it's always great to know the backstory.
Yeah, I've been I always like to learn more about our fiber companies, and it's a little tricky to learn about Woolfolk sometimes. So I'm super excited. I was so happy when you said you'd talk to us today.
Yeah.
Because I'm really eager to learn more about your company, the yarns you make, and more about you.
Okay. Yeah, we do tend to keep things kind of mysterious. Most of us prefer to be behind the scenes. I joined the company 5 years ago, right before our 3rd collection launched. And at that point, Kristen, who's the owner and founder, had been doing all of the shipping up till that point. And we have graphics person who does our social media as well. And she actually has always worked remotely in San Francisco. So traditionally in the past, we would fly back and forth. We haven't been doing that this year. So we are a very small company. We've added a designer liaison who coordinates our sample knitting and makes sure designers have what they need to work with and that their timeline is in line with our production. But otherwise, we're pretty small. Kristen founded the company not long after her mother passed away. And this would have been around 2013. She was working for a local yarn shop. Her kids were older and she was just working, doing some sample knitting, and they had an in-house brand. They were approached from their representative and shown this exclusive fiber, the ultimate merino.
Yes.
And they decided to pass. And
oh wow.
Yeah.
That was, well, you know, thankfully Kristen,
I know we didn't steal it from anybody. And they said no. So Kristen went home and talked to her husband and was just like, this is special. It's really special.
Wow.
And he was like, well, you should do it. You should go for it. And her sort of joke is, if it didn't work out, she would at least have yarn for the rest of her life as far as the initial put up, right?
I'm sure, right?
But it did really well. And here we are now, however many collections in. And
right. So which yarn was that first
which
one?
was the first, or was it more than one line?
That she came out with?
Yeah.
Far and Tinned were the first.
Okay.
Just 12 colors. And then everything sort of branched from there. She really wanted to elevate the aesthetic of a hand knit design. That was sort of, she's a trained architect and really sort of sees things visually.
Oh, yeah.
And so that's sort of, it was a very, and if you meet Kristen, you know, a lot of our reactions are very gut based. Like we look at something, do we like it? We don't, we sort of move forward.
You don't need to mull over it. You know.
Yeah. We both really know. One time we were at a photo shop, or not a photo shop, like a photo shoot. And it was the night before we were having dinner. And I am trained as a costume designer for theater.
Oh, cool.
Guess what? That was my major in college too.
Really?
That's not what my degree is in, but that was what I did that was my direction for a while.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. I mean, it's a sort of odd one to bring up and then just sort of talk about. Vanessa is also our photographer. She's the one that does our social media and our graphic design. And so really for us, and Kathleen, I think this will speak to you, it's about telling the Woolfolk story, right? And so once you know what that story is, the decisions that you make are, because we can approach it from a storytelling point of view, once we know our Woolfolk story, it's easy to determine new colors, pieces for a collection, how we want to shoot it, because it fits in with what we know is the story. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say, you know, certainly palette wise, you know, we love the palette. It's so, you know, we're 15 miles outside of New York City. So we have a really, you know, very urban kind of vibe, I'd say, you know, urban, suburban, whatever.
Sure.
And, you know, people come in and we've always sold. I mean, we've been around 3.5 years. In our 3.5 years, you know, we sold a lot of gray, we sold a lot of black, sell a lot of neutrals. So, you know, not only do we love the yarn and were we excited to be able to carry it, we knew the palette would do well. And to see people go crazy, it's like, ooh, which one of the tans do I want? You know, it's like, these are our people.
Yeah, it is sort of a joke. I moved here from New York City 10 years ago, almost 11 now. And so that also very much spoke to me, you know, the sort of neutral palette or darker. And then it's also been fun to see it evolve. If you look at the first range of colors, it was, I think 5 or 6 grays, which is great. And there's a place for all of them, you know, but as it's grown sort of introducing the new colors. Like if we were to do a pink, what would that pink look like? Because it's not necessarily going to be everyone else's pink. You know, is it a grayer pink or a browner pink? If it's purple, what kind of purple is it? And
for sure,
especially the colors that are really hard to describe. You know, is it red? Is it orange? Is it gold? Is it brown? What is it? And then you're like, that's a Woolfolk color.
Yeah, exactly. It is funny. When I was I put together like a scheme for our wall here, so we'd know where to hang everything, and you know, when things are getting low, people know to go down to the basement, what they're going to pull. So, you know, of course I use the numbers, but then I started trying assigning names to them. And actually, after I graduated with a degree in psychology, I eventually went into marketing and branding. So I did a lot of naming as part of my last corporate job. So you'd think I'd be good at this, right? if you ever want help with names, I will show you what I've got, but it's hard. At a certain point, it's like, you know, grade number 6. Yeah.
Yeah, it is hard. And that was one of the reasons Kristen kind of wanted to keep it as neutral as possible. I get that you have to memorize numbers, but
no, you know, there are some, this is 16. I know.
That's right. Absolutely. But I think it's nice because it doesn't presuppose anything, right?
Yes,
because a lot of them change radically when you put them next to other things. So, you know, it's something that's a blue can suddenly skew really green if you put it next to another more traditional blue, or, you know, the old greens versus the new greens, suddenly the old greens become really tealy, and but it brings a lot of life and depth to the colors. And I think that's what really attracts us to them.
So, you struck something like interesting when you said the Woolfolk story. So can you tell me, like, are there words around that? What is the Woolfolk story? What's the story that you're trying to tell with this and with the
That's a good question.
Yeah. I vibe with your story. Love it.
Yeah. What is that
like
story?
Articulating it that way, it's like, wow, I'm connecting with.
Yeah. I mean, I think I also wrote down some few notes. I mean, I think ultimately we really focus on clean lines, practical knitwear, and everything is really modern and minimal. And so then everything kind of fits into that.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, certainly line wise for collections, but even with the colors. So, you know, sneak peek this fall, we're looking at orange, and like, what does that mean? You know, because like
that's her favorite color.
Is it? I'll be so curious to hear what you think.
I don't know if we have any Yarnia things here, but yeah, our corporate color, I call it persimmon, but it's a very yellowy orange.
Yes. Yeah. So, you know, it just, you know, I just said, what if we consider orange? And Kristen goes, do you wear orange, Meredith? Well, no, not traditionally, but what would be an orange that I would see and be like, I want that orange?
Yeah, right. And that fits with the rest of your color story. Yeah.
Exactly. And so it was kind of interesting to see. A lot of times we, for inspiration, we'll go to the fabric store that's just down the street. And it's called Mill End, and it gets a lot of designer fabrics and remnants from New York and all over, but their selection is really, it's one of those, it's like you walk in and it's super cavernous and it's not very well organized, but once you like get in there, right, there's so much good stuff. And we just go around and look at orange and we just grab orange fabrics.
That's a great idea.
Because to go then back to the mill, it's a better translation from fabric to yarn than say paper to yarn, you know? How do you communicate that? So the yarn is milled in Peru, but the sheep are raised in Patagonia at the southern tip of South America.
Oh, so it's Patagonia is
Chile,
Argentina,
right? Argentina and Chile.
Or Chile.
Yes.
I think it's both at the bottom there, really. Yeah.
See, yeah, you were gonna catch me.
No,
all sorts of note taken.
Well, I'll put a little picture on the side of like half of South America.
Yes,
this is our geography lesson today.
It's good when we all learn things. It is.
Yeah, absolutely. But no, I mean that's I feel like yarn central in a lot of ways.
It is. I mean, some of it has to do, I think, just ecologically. It's, this is where sheep thrive, right? And so, and that's not true. I mean, sheep grow all over, but it is a hub for that reason. Originally, they were going to mill it in like Italy, and Kristen thought we should try to not change continents if we don't have to. I mean, it has to come to us, right? But that was like a whole other extra trip.
Yeah.
But she was approached by someone who represents Ovis 21 to go back to the sheep.
Right. So is this a special Ovis sheep? I mean, tell me about that. How does
Yes, as best I can. And if you can link to websites, the Ovis 21 website does have some information on it. But they are land stewards, and the goal is to have what they call regenerative farming or regenerative wool, regenerative land management. So they're very careful about the number of sheep, where they're grazing, and then, the whole life cycle comes. But it's about caring for the sheep that care for the land that cares for us and the sheep, right? And to produce this superior quality product.
So it's really all managed around, and then they breed specifically to get the fibers that are going to make that superior quality.
Yeah, the micron counts.
Quality. Yeah, tell me about like so you have a fiber, but obviously that has to go through a process to become a yarn and a skein and all that kind of stuff. So
yes, I haven't been to the mill, so I don't totally know all of those answers. And we have different types, like bar that you're holding is a chainette.
Right.
And that's what it's actually chained together. And it's very lofty, right? Because there's a lot of air built into the actual chain. Some of ours have, isn't it beautiful? Oh my gosh. Sometimes I have to be careful of my dry hands. It's so soft.
Yeah, it is. I'm doing the Cocoa Knits knit along right now. With and I have the far number 20, which is like a dark red up
mahogany.
Here.
Yes, like a raisin. Oh, it's so good.
So I'm working on that. If I had finished it, I would be wearing it. But it's a big Franco's a big sweater.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And so the sheep have a very low micron count of 7.5. So the
7.5.
Oh, I'm sorry, not 17.5.
17.5. Okay. The
sheep have a very low micron count of 17.5.
17.5. That's still very low.
Which is still low. It's super low.
It's still exceptionally low.
Yeah. So the scales aren't very scaly. It's actually very
sort of sleek, I guess.
Sleek, that's right.
Okay, so
that's what makes it soft.
All of your yarns are made with that. So this bar is chainette.
Which I think it is my favorite. I think out of all of them. Oops, sorry.
No problem. But that's what I was noticing, because we have the we have the flet here, which is like a boucle.
Yep.
Love the flat.
We have the luft, which is like a blown.
Yes. And that is combined with cotton. The luft is.
Yep.
Right.
And then we have the snow, which is similar to tinned, but they're both
right. They're both 2-ply.
Yeah. You can really see the plies in the snow though.
Yeah. It's just 2-color. Yeah.
And then the Tov we have the Tov DK, but Tov 2, right?
Yes. And that has a much higher twist.
Multiply. Is it a multiply or is it?
Yes, it
is. Yeah.
8, I think.
12 strands or something.
Well, that's it.
Yeah. So like to me, this is one of the things that really stands out to me about Woolfolk is that there's obviously been a lot of thought in the production that went into like, okay, we want to make a DK weight yarn. How should this DK weight yarn be constructed so that it hits
it's
all
part
the
of the family. It's part of the, definitely. Yeah.
So it hits all the important points, like, because with every yarn choice you make, you get pros and cons. I was thinking on the way over here, it's almost like we live in a town that has a hill that you can see New York City from. So you can live in a house at the top of the hill and have a fantastic view. Pro, con, you have to get out of your driveway in the winter when it snows.
Right, exactly.
And we would love to have a house with a view of New York City where you don't have to worry about icy driveways in the winter, but that's really not achievable.
You got to take the good with the bad.
Yeah, I think that's right. And that also segues a bit into the pilling.
That's I had asked Meredith because a lot of folks say like, I've noticed a pill or two. I've just knit it. There's a pill on it now. What do I do?
Yep.
There's a pill.
I know.
But to me, that's part of being a soft yarn.
Exactly.
That's the sign of a really soft yarn, and it's a bit of good with, maybe less desirable, but there are also ways to solve it. And I think some of it is knowing that it's going to happen when it's unexpected, and it is shocking. Absolutely. Right. But if you kind of know, like, I want this really soft yarn, it's going to have a bit of a halo. That's part of its charm. And if you have
friction, you will get some pills. I tell people that every day, when people are looking, it's like, does it pill? Well, if it's soft, it will pill. And, and basically, so like I said, it's knowing how to deal with it.
That's it.
And I think it is helpful to know that it's expected. And,
and then nothing is wrong. It should pill. That's what's supposed to happen.
Right.
So.
But it's like,
just because it is that soft, that is a natural.
And some of it is just loose fibers coming out, and a lot of times it does settle once you kind of move past it. But, they're gleaners or a lily brush. I've used both. They both work great. And some of it's a bit like everything. It's investing the time in those pieces, right? So you've done the initial investment of purchasing it and then the time to knit it. So it also comes with the expectation, like in the spring, you should probably wash it. You should remove any limbs. You should store it correctly. And, and I think some of that just comes with time. Like when I was definitely a new knitter, I did not want to do any of those things, right? I wanted to knit. I wanted to knit really fast and knit all the things. And that over time you kind of, this is an investment piece. And it comes with other things that you have to do to maintain that investment.
Yeah. And I've got other sweaters that too. It's like, every couple of wears, you just we carry gleaners here. We just give them a good gleaning and they look good as new.
Yeah.
So that's all. It just takes time. And
I gleaned. I was showing Meredith before we got on. This is Teddy's sweater that I've made in the snow, and I gave it a good gleaning because he wears it a lot. Every time he's in his little carriage, he's in his Woolfolk
so sweet
sweater.
Snow sweater.
Yeah, and it wasn't, like you said, I think it's halo, and then it's I hadn't actually noticed pills, but once you start looking at the halo, you're like, I could defuzz it a little bit.
Exactly.
The gleaner, and it was lovely. Gleaners are an amazing thing to have in your toolbox.
Absolutely. Yeah, and knowledge is power.
Yeah. So about these colors. Can I? So all of these are obviously designed to be like cohesive, right? It's not the rainbow.
Right, for sure.
It is not the rainbow. It's not. It's true.
Hold on.
And I feel like kind of going back to the idea of the story. Everybody has a story to tell. And I think every color has a place at some point, I mean, I love hot pink, but we will probably never do Woolfolk in hot pink.
Yeah.
It's not part of that story. And I think other people tell other stories, and there's a place for everybody. If we all did the same thing, that'd be super boring. And
exactly.
I think it's great for people to do different things and people to have lots of choices. And not everything works for everything. And sometimes you want to splash a color, and this is our story, and we'd love for anybody to join along that wants to. But I mean, our colors are very subtle.
No, they are
beautifully subtle, though. I mean,
they tend to work as the small collection, like when we release them, we tend to do gradients. That's just our go-to. But then they still work within the bigger framework on the wall.
Yeah, that is one thing I noticed. I knit the Andrea Mallory stripes and the flat. And all the colors go together.
Yeah,
right?
they really do. They all have a certain muted quality to them that helps them, you know, relate to each other.
Yeah, that's one thing that sometimes it's hard to pick color, like, you know, when you're doing a project and you want to have 2 or 3 colors, or the pattern calls for 2 or 3 colors, you're wondering, like, do these go together? You never have to ask that question with Woolfolk.
I really,
yes.
I do. I agree.
I
agree. I think you can pretty much pick anything. And, you know, even when we're putting up the stuff on the wall, it's like, you know, do you want to do this or do you want to do that? And it's just more like preference rather than, oh, this doesn't work. They really,
and it can change, you know, so sometimes two things will come together and be like, I never thought of that, but it looks so good, you know?
Exactly. Yeah.
So is this your color palette too? I always wonder that about, like, yarn, you know, yarn companies, if this is the palette of the folks who run the company, or if this is like the palette that they would like to put forward in the world. Does that make sense? Like,
I do. I would say it's definitely Kristen's palette, 100%.
Okay.
And it's probably Vanessa's palette too. I like to do neutrals with a pop of something. And it could be a pop there, but like I'm wearing like a neon, it's a super simple chain, but it's a little neon, it's a little pop of something. Right?
Yeah.
But this is a new lift color. I don't know if you can really see. It's a dark green.
Oh, cool.
So we've got 3 new lift colors coming. It's a sort of a green gray, the dark green, and then a brighter gold with a white cage.
Yeah.
It's a little different than L4. And this is Denise Bayron's Wave of Change pullover, and I knit it in the green lift, and I wear it every week. It's such a great pattern.
That's great.
Yeah, I just saw her one of her interviews too, and like the way that
Did I freeze again?
Oh, sorry.
We might have.
Yeah, so I can see Denise being a very knittable designer in Woolfolk, just with the architectural details.
But like real clean lines. And
it was a really
a good,
nice pairing. I was very delighted. I was so delighted. So somebody else asked me yesterday what my palette is, and I do wear a lot of black. And I'm trying to branch out, and but I love those soft pinks, you know, like blush or clay. Do you know what I'm talking about? Those?
Yeah,
I know just what you're talking
about. It's my favorite right now. Every time I buy yarn, I end up with that color.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely.
And I'm an equal opportunity shopper. I like to buy lots of things.
Yep. Okay. So I have a last question. Do you have any other questions before we?
I don't think so. I think you've covered pretty much everything.
Hey.
I know it's kind of odd sitting in a warehouse. So you can kind of.
It's okay. It's real life.
Yeah, totally. So are your offices? Do you have, like? I think, and that's one thing. Actually, going back to the beginning of our conversation. Just recognizing, like, you guys are a small company.
Yeah, it's part of the mystery, right? Like, nobody really knows who's here or what's going on or what we're doing. But
that's one thing that surprised me, like, getting into the yarn industry, is how many companies that we think of as like
these big companies,
big corporations, are not big like corporations. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
When I was first hired, before I went to the interview, I had this like idea of what it would be like. And then I saw it and I was like, oh, it's a warehouse. Okay, fine. It's just a warehouse. We've moved 3 times. Well, I guess we've moved twice. We've had 3 warehouses.
Wow.
This one is the closest to my house, which was really nice of Kristen.
Yeah,
definitely.
And there is a few spaces, but for the most part I work here alone, and that was pre-pandemic. I had more visitors pre-pandemic, but For the most part, I'm alone here at the warehouse most of the day. I have an office, and then I have like a shipping station up front with another computer and all of my shipping stuff. And then we just have racks with yarn and bags. It's a pretty, we have a room with our sample clothes, and so that's the other kind of component is the shuffle of like the clothes we buy for photo shoots, any samples that are being made, where are we at with that? Am I expecting samples in, you know, when is the next photo shoot? But otherwise,
how far out are you planning like your collections? Because your collections come out like really nice and cohesive, and your models are gorgeous, and everything hangs together like a real collection. It's lovely. It's very fashion forward.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, definitely.
When my background professionally, aside from theater, is in retail, but mostly in sewing.
Okay.
I was the manager of a quilt shop and machine dealership for and one of my greatest pleasures was having mannequins in like a store window wearing clothes that we had made. They were maybe class samples, and someone come in and be like, where are these clothes? And you're like, you can make them.
That's what you tell people.
So, yeah. So that aesthetic really responds to me, this idea of, you know, fashion forward, but clean, minimal things that are timeless, things that you want to put the investment in because you know in future years you'll still want to be wearing them, you know.
Absolutely.
I don't think anybody takes, you know, retail lightly. It, you know, as a purchaser of yarn, you know, you always want to be mindful of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. No, I mean, I think a lot of if we put Woolfolk pieces all up in our windows, we'd have a lot of questions.
In a good way.
Can we buy that?
Right now we're planning much shorter in advance because travel is harder, you know what I mean? So our timeline has been a lot more compressed. I guess for some people it might get spread out, but for ours it's much faster. So we'll shoot a collection and launch it basically a month later, whereas normally it would have been several months in between.
Wow.
Yeah.
And everything is getting delayed a little bit. We just heard back about some yarns that we hoped would be summer, but now it looks like early fall, and that's the way it's going to be. You know, there's not much any of us can do about it, and I think that's fine. You know, it is what it is. But
yeah, I think that's consistent across the whole industry.
Absolutely. And even many of our customers are finally, you know, I feel like, you know, just I explained it to people at least a couple of times a week still about how, you know, countries were closed down and supply chains are disrupted, and you know, it's just it is what it is, and it's just being annoyed about it is not going to help anybody.
No, I mean the mill did shut down. It's just not back operating 100%, right? So it is operating, but not at full capacity, which I don't want them to be. Like then you're like, okay, like it's fine. So that the time is just a little longer, but we tend to. Again, because we know the story and the vision is very clear and it came from Kristen initially.
Yeah.
And it's very easy for all of the other decisions to be made. How to style it, where to shoot it, what the model, like it's all very easy because we know the story.
That's so cool. Yeah, it's a brand with a very singular vision.
Yeah,
it is
cool.
That's great.
It can still evolve, which I think is also really
interesting. Yeah. It doesn't mean it can't evolve. It's just you know, at this point in time, you know exactly, you know, like you said, multiple people can make decisions because the story is so clear.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's cool.
It's a marketing person's dream.
Absolutely. Oh my goodness. So I think you did have one more question.
I did have a last question. Yes.
Which is always a fun one.
Yeah. And it's what's on your needles /hook/loom/ I don't know what your creative craft is.
All the things.
Tell us more.
I think I was telling Kathleen before, I am a pretty slow knitter. So I tend to do one sweater a year, maybe two. But this one I finished really quickly. I was so delighted.
That's great. Yeah.
So I'm going to knit a sweater with our linen wool blend straw.
Oh, yeah.
That's going to be the next one I work on. I've got the yarn Artie Pull. It's one of our new colors. That'll be for August.
Nice.
And then I'm making my first pair of socks. I'm knitting my first pair of socks.
Cool. Hey.
Yeah. A local friend who has her own indie dye brand did a Halloween sort of little bundle that was very cool. And it's greens mostly and a little blues and a little dark. So that's going to be my first pair of socks.
Great. Very fun.
Awesome. Yeah,
and I
her Halloween socks
from last year. Actually, it was a knitted wit yarn.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
I'm sure you know from the Portland area, right?
Yes. Laura Jean
and company. Yep.
Yes.
It's a good time to be knitting Halloween socks, everybody.
I did start
preparation.
Yeah. No, I started them last summer and put them aside, trying to get my daughter is really very into socks at the moment, so she's spurred us back into socks.
I wanna try, but yeah, it's like knitting with toothpicks. So
yeah, it is. Are you a loose knitter or a tight knitter, or average?
I feel like I'm pretty average. And I did get the little Chiagu shorties to try and like help, because I am super loose on double points, so I was trying to cinch it up a bit. And I'm working on a mystery quilt right now. Well, yeah, it was given in pieces every week, right? Wow. But I didn't catch up.
It happens.
So I know what it looks like, but I'm still working on it.
That's fine. That's good.
That's so a mystery. Does that come pre-cut, or do you just get the?
You just get the instructions.
That's the most daunting thing. I want to do a quilt someday, but the cutting is very daunting to me. I'm sure a lot of folks say, I want to knit a sweater someday, but like
the sleeves are daunting.
It's all like magic, sort of. It's
exactly.
Absolutely.
Cutting is my least favorite part. So I like that we get a chunk of it and then we cut and deal with that, and then get another and deal with that.
And you get
even if I know the pattern, I don't cut it all at once. It's too boring.
Yeah, it is. That is the worst part. I totally agree.
To each their own. Some people hate swatching, some people hate blocking, some people hate sleeves, you know. That's okay.
We were saying before, my thing that I would prefer not to do, I don't hate any of it, but the thing I would prefer not to do is long stretches of stockinette.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Or garter back and forth and back and forth if it's flat.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And that doesn't bother me. I'm good with that. It's TV knitting. It's like perfect TV knitting to me.
Yeah. I kind of like to have, like everybody, a range of both. Something that
absolutely
I can do and not think about, something I might learn something new doing.
Yep, exactly. All right. Well, it's been so nice to chat with you, Meredith.
Thank you. You too.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And who knows when we can all travel again. If you're ever in the New York City area, definitely come see us.
Yeah. I mean, I do tend to come. I mean, I haven't been in years, but I do come back occasionally to the city. I'd love to come out to Montclair.
Yeah.
It's an
super
train
easy on the train,
out from the city. So
40 minutes, depending on what train you catch. And we're like steps from a train station now too. So
that's great.
Plenty of places to eat. Thanks so much. Thanks for chatting with us.
Thank you so much,
ladies.
I appreciate your time. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
And I am thrilled to say that we are able to present highlights from the Woolfolk Trunk Show, which will be on display at Yarnia during the 2021 New Jersey Wool Walk in April. Please enjoy.
Thank you.